Amanda.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching 86, Season 1, Episode 10. Last episode was my favorite episode of this entire series so far. It was extraordinary. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. I feel blessed to have been able to edit a reaction to that video so that I could rewatch that episode.
That's fair. But that episode did leave me in a place of such uncertainty about what the series is going to be going forward. Even if it was an amazing episode, I feel like I don't have any ground to stand on in terms of an actual direction narratively that the show's gonna go, in terms of like who's in the main cast of characters. Do we age them up?
I mean, we were given a line of dialogue from the, at the time, current spearhead at the end of last episode to almost imply like, oh yeah, you're going to be able to use these, you know, strats for the next group, mm-hmm. right? And yeah, it definitely makes me feel like, okay, well, the spearhead that we knew is gone, however you want to interpret it. But at the same time, it would almost feel like unrealistic to expect this next episode we're being introduced to a totally new cast, you know? Right. So whether it's a time skip, whether it is getting reintroduced or introduced to new people, I have no guesses that are actually good or any gut feelings.
Right. It's not even all of that. It's like added to that is the main characters that we know that could definitely still exist in this story are in really interesting places, both emotionally and with their jobs, because of what was done last episode, being Lena and Annette. That dynamic, that relationship, those personal feelings and emotions, but also their jobs.
I am more than anything curious for Annette. I think she is one of the most fascinating characters in the show, and I'd say last episode would have gone a lot differently if she didn't have a previous relationship with Shin. Mm-hmm. Now that he is not involved, I'm interested to see whether Annette's involvement becomes, you know, less or more.
I'm very thankful for her addition into this story. I think that rain scene is going to be one of my favorite scenes of this series. Like in its entirety, that scene is going to be one of my favorites. That idea of someone saying, "Oh, well, it's none of your business. Like it doesn't mean anything to you." And then that person questioning, like, does it really not? Oh, God,
so good.
So beautiful.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. I feel like a little kid on Christmas. Like, I don't know what to expect. What box am I opening up here?
Is it a present you asked for?
This has to be what they were seeing on the other side.
In the unknown. Is that like a bullet? Shell casing?
Now, do you think this is just their perspective at the end of last episode? Or do you think this is forward in time?
Right? I mean, the show does like to switch up with POVs and go back a little bit.
Wow. Oh, seeing Shin without the handkerchief. Oh. A new cat friend?
That's beautiful. The rain almost
this entire episode so far has been gorgeous. The color. Man, look at Shin's face.
It's soft. I mean, what he experienced last episode.
Voices? Yeah.
They're still not safe. Wow, like glittering. It's like
Holy
they're moving.
Shit. I like that peering back, it almost like made the aspect ratio appear to change.
They're basically watching them march toward people that they had been protecting. There's a hole in it.
Whew.
No new intro.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Maybe. God, I have chills.
It's like they might be free, quote unquote, at the moment, but are they free from like the emotional heaviness of the fact that they have run away and that there are people that are still in harm's way?
I wonder what their feelings on Lena are going to be like. Because the idea of Lena not forgetting about them or not willing to give up on them, it might be infectious to a certain degree.
I think the hole in the leaf is like a beautiful conversation piece. There's a lot that it could be saying. I'm kind of sad I won't hear Shin's brother saying his name again.
Yeah. It's like echoing in
the
chambers
I
of my
can
mind.
still hear it.
Okay, let's go. Two weeks. Wow, yeah.
So this is freedom. What's the rush?
Yeah. God, freedom feels weird, yeah? It's like so ingrained in your system that you have to keep moving forward as quick as possible.
Like urgency.
Yeah. Wow.
You're basically running through life at that point.
This is extremely healing. Man, using them for clotheslines. Wow.
That's not so bad. Yep, I remember that. What? I did.
Talk about what Lena looks like.
Speaking of romantic.
576. Man.
Including his brother. Didn't catch the fish at that line.
Oh. Is this time to... Oh my god, man. This is...
Now you have the time to think about it. They really are linked.
Wow. Old Imperial territory. I'd like to see what their towns are like. Oh my god. This is so cool.
We're all just ordinary kids from different towns. The flag in tatters.
Yeah.
They have their own statues.
Hmm.
It's not like hearing his brother's voice.
Man, look at the sky. Cool shot. Nice, Fido. Cool. Oh, look at how happy he is. Hearing Shin laugh like this.
The leaf.
僕とライデンのどうでもいい雑談に乗ってきたり。
きっと楽になったんだよ。ずっと追いかけてた目的を達成。
It's like he's like actually awake and present.
5年も探し続けてやっと葬ってやれて
Oh man.
自由になれた。
それに最後の最後に自分のことを預けていける相手を見つけたのよね。
先に行きます少佐か。
僕らの死神も寂しかったんだよね。仲間に先に死なれて連れてくばっかりで。だからよかったのよね。シンくんにとってあの言葉を残してこられたのは。
いや、
But
なんだかこいつにはもう何もないような気がして。
nothing left.
あのバカ。
What?
ジャガーノー
Running
トは
off
残
by
ってた。
himself?
一人で先に行ったわけじゃない。
けど拳銃とライフルは持って行ってるよ。
パラレードは？
すぐ切られた。
Wow, that's
Oh, I
fucking
don't.
sad. That's fucked up. I don't
ま
like
るで
that.
私たちみたいに。
The kind of oh.
I was about to say before we entered the zoo, like, please tell me. Wow.
こいつはもう動けない。
Can it
前から少しず
communicate?
つ近づいてきたのは分かってて、偵察でもないだろうし。
It's like
向かう先
dragging
も違う
behind
みたいだ
them.
から放っておくつもりだったんだけど、昨日からは呼ばれてると思っ
Who's
たから。
calling
me
me?
since
呼ばれ
yesterday.
た。こいつは 元は俺たちと同じ86だ。
Oh.
話はできないけど帰りたい。
It being in a zoo too.
Like
もういい。
us.
もう帰っていい。もし共和国の他に生き残っている勢力がいたら。何度か聞いたなその話。
What?
国境を越えてレギオンの支配域を
What?
先にレギオンのいない地域がある。そこに行って平和に暮らすってか。おとぎ話ならこういう旅は
You're
最
arriving
後
in
に理想郷に
paradise.
たどり着く
He's
ものらし
finally
いけど。
thinking about what
理
to
想
do.
郷かあるいは天国。もん期待するなら
I have so much chills.
昔に自分で自分の頭吹き飛ばしてるよ。
私たちもこんな風に。
Ah! Don't end. Oh.
Wait, it's way too early to end.
ごちゃ言わずに進めってか。
Fido's all business.
生意気だぞファイド。
He's excited.
お前は一人で向こう岸に行っちまうのか。なんでもね。行くぞ。
Oh, great shot. Was that it? Really? The Legion's point of view? Fido?
He's the one that knows, you know?
お前
Do you think Fido's like an old 86 or part of the Legion? I mean, Shin can hear him.
お前の仲間ももう誰もいないけど一緒に帰るか。
Wow.
ここが新しい豚小屋だ。
I guess it never really hit me how long Shin and Fido were together for.
最後までしっかり働けよ。86。おお。お前が死神のお供か。最後までよろしくな。
Wow.
よし、お前この意味がわかるか？
Man.
今日はね、ちょっとつまずいた時にシンが支えてくれて、背中に手が触れたの見てた。
We get to see
ここ
it.
で問題だ。
Oh.
機械にわかるわけないでしょ。
A machine wouldn't know.
なんでわかるの？
How did he know?
I love that there was a shot of Shin getting out another name.
ていうかファイドって男？
Did he say yes?
人は乙女なのかお前は。花好きに男も女も関係ないの。私の好きな花はな。
Wow.
今日はね、シンに褒められちゃった。具体的に言うとね、生徒中人生が変わるなんてそんな簡単に変わるわけないでしょ。ねえ。
ファイトオーロラだ。行くぜホッキャキャ。変えてあげられるかな。
Yeah, you already did. You did.
To よく生き延びたよね。ここまで。今度こそ死んじゃうんだよね。
世話になったな。あいつらのお供頼むぞ。
よかったな。人生最後の写真だよ。ああ。
His brother.
ありがとう。
The 30th. The third. We've gone. What's happening? It was like the 13th.
行くよ。
What? Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, that was 86, season 1, episode 10. I was so happy.
You were so happy? At what point?
The entire...
First.
When did the fucking Fido montage start? Let's for the first 19 minutes.
Yeah. What was up with it saying skip preview?
I don't know, that was weird. It
There
was,
was
like,
no,
just
like,
12 minutes into the episode or something.
Yeah, and there was no sign of any, like, what I would have taken as a preview. Weird, but okay. Yeah.
That was beautiful, man. I loved that episode so much. I felt like, usually when there's so much calm or time to chill in an anime or a story that often has tragedies in it, the only thing I feel is like anxiety of something bad happening, because it's like, oh, calm before the storm, you know? And I'm happy to say that I didn't feel like that for the first 20 minutes of the episode. For some reason or another, the way that they were able to portray it and the way they set it up, I felt nothing but like peace and happiness for them to experience peace and happiness for a second.
Mm-hmm.
It was so nice. It was so nice to see. It's so crazy that in only 10 episodes, I can see Shin this episode and be like, he's completely different. He like this. I've never seen him like this, and then it being reaffirmed by the other people we're with. Like he's laughing. He's like going along with our bits more. He's making jokes, you know.
Mm-hmm. And while everyone else in the room seems like really pleased by this or like happy to see it, I would say that Raiden's reactions to Shin throughout this episode were incredibly interesting. Like, he was very watchful. His eyebrows were knitted a bit, like he was almost worried, and he kept having lines about Shin kind of like, he's not a kid, can't go off alone, and then like more towards like the middle half or later on in the episode, we get a line about Shin going to the other side of the water alone, and there's this really nice puddle shot, which I remember you reacting to
You
as
could
well.
see like the oil in it, so it
Mhm.
was off colored. It was like pearlescent.
Yeah, and with what we saw at the very end of the Fido montage, it doesn't lead me to feeling like super good about the lives going forward of everyone other than Shin. In the montage, we have Theo being like, I wonder if I'll be the one that's next. Obviously, this episode with the ride in line, Shin going to the other side of the water alone.
So here's like the pro and con that I feel was not having a dream yet, not being able to think about a dream. When because Shin was so preoccupied with his mission, he didn't have the time to aspire, right? And that in itself was sad and sucked. But in doing so, he prolonged the time that it took to aspire, where everybody else could have aspired for something as great as getting into the unknown and feeling freedom, and then like death is welcome at that point because it's on your own terms, where that would be an end to their lives, and Shin wouldn't have thought about what his next goal was until that was his baseline, and that makes me little bit fearful for everybody's life in what little we have left of Spearhead.
Right.
I'm not like
sorry.
weirdly enough. Sorry. Like definitely Raiden. Okay, I guess I don't have any specific character fears of their lives more than another, because I think all of them had their own moments. Like whether it was Corinna, Raiden, like all of them had their own moments that could be a bad omen or a good omen for their character life.
I think that just because of what Fido sees at the very end, matched with kind of one of the, I would say, most pivotal moments other than the montage, like in terms of emotion, being that puddle scene.
Yeah.
I have to think that line that is being said in that moment is of high importance.
In terms of Shin going off and doing his own thing and surviving, and everybody else not.
Right. And we have that idea. Another thing that could be very like evidential to that is when they bring up Lena this episode, as if she was like the person that could be the support that Shin needed. Like she was what he needed to be able to do this, basically.
The idea of other countries being out there and found with survivors is truly fascinating. I feel like there isn't too much to speculate on other than if they would exist or not. I think because it was brought up, I would hope that there are survivors somewhere, but what that looks like, I have no idea. I think that the idea of the Legion being in the zoo this episode fucking sucked to see, because it was very sad, and it wanting to go home was a very poignant point to see. And what I think that, could say for the rest of our team. But mainly, I have so many things that I want to talk about from the Fido montage. Yeah.
Would you like to do that first, or should we still talk more about some of the earlier
We can
things
talk
first?
some more about other stuff, like earlier stuff, if you want.
Okay. You had just brought up the other countries, and I wanted to go
Elaborate.
into a conversation about that. We've talked about before that this story is a dystopia, basically. A lot of it is reminiscent, reminding me nostalgia-wise of some of the dystopians that were very popular maybe in like the 2010s, coming into movie theaters, really big. That idea of like over governments that are kind of controlling their groups of people. There are people that are kept in some sort of like minority cage, treated really poorly, ostracized, and everything is amplified tenfold from like what you really see in society.
Yeah.
And I want to go to some things that happened in some other dystopians that I feel like could help me start to theorize what would happen going forward with the idea of other countries and us starting to speculate about that. We have this idea here that we have now left the cage, basically. We have left the unknown. We have left the zoo that we were kept in.
Yeah.
We get the line from Anju about feeling like the animals that were in this zoo that have died here were the same as them.
Mm-hmm.
But now they have been able to turn off their trackers. They're in this unknown. They are starting to talk about these rumors that they've heard of past a certain border that Legion do not go into and do not enter. We have had some other, I would say, anime series as well that would help inform me with this. But this idea that we could leave the cage and then want to, from leaving the cage, partner up with whoever is already outside of the cage to then save the rest of the people within the cage.
Yeah.
That is not necessarily a completely original concept in my brain. That's why my mind is going there. Not that that's like a bad thing at all. But that is where my like theory mind is going, because it feels like a step that could definitely happen and would feel consistent to the themes.
Yeah.
And to kind of foreshadowing that's already been added in, especially into this episode.
What do you think if we did find another country and like, and they were established, right? They weren't just survivors. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they'd have their own military force? Do you think that they would be partial to Legion? Could they offer Shin any resource that could be utilized against them? Or would they not want to do anything involving it because they don't want the attention, of course, of the Legion, you know?
Right. I mean, bringing up that idea of, like, not wanting to do anything, maybe not because they don't want the attention of the Legion, like, have the Legion attacking them, but if I bring up what Jerome had said to Lena, like, 2-3 episodes ago about wanting to have a perceived, like, other places to perceive the Alba in a certain way,
mm-hmm.
that they were going to try to hide certain factors of what they had done to the 86 and hide kind of some of the truths about this war in order to keep a perceived image of their people to the rest of the world. If there's politics in play like that on a grand scale of a bunch of different countries trying to keep up appearances, keep up relationships and treaties that they might already have with other groups.
Yeah.
That could lead into, are they scared of the Legion because the Legion is a threat to them as well, and so they keep up some sort of treaty where they don't get involved in the war that the Legion has with the Alba? Or is it something that is being kept so secret what's actually happening with the war that other people don't even really know?
Mm.
Also, what does the map actually look like in terms of continents and in terms of, like, how many people are really on one landmass with another? Is there, like, water in the middle? Like, don't we have this idea that we're on somewhat of a... I think we got a map in, like, the first episode. And now that we're getting this idea of going into the unknown and other countries, I feel like I want to go back to that and look at it.
Yeah. I feel like within a universe like this, it can, if it chose to, it could definitely expand itself to a worldly type of map rather than like incontinent, which I think is how you're like painting out how we have been in regards to this story. And I if it did come to like a bigger scale, I just wouldn't know who would reach them, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, the more I'm thinking about it during this discussion, like, I'm definitely... Last episode, I'm like, are we ever going to see Spearhead again? And then at the end of this episode, I'm like, are we ever going to see Spearhead again? And if we do, is it just going to be Shin? Like,
this episode didn't really confirm or deny any of my fears or thoughts in regards to what are we actually going to see going forward in terms
think
of
that
the cast.
My opinion on whether people are dead or not, or will be dead or not, has changed in regards to Shin, but that doesn't affect on if we're going to see him anymore. Mm-hmm. If we never saw them again this episode compared to last episode, last episode, if we never saw them again, I'd say that they all died, but in their own way that was on their own terms that they were happy with to as much as they could have been. After this episode, I'd say there's that glimmer of hope within the dialogue about Shin crossing that river, that he might, even if we never saw him again, there's still hope that he'd be out there somewhere.
Right. I feel like in stories there is room for some things to be left unanswered or left unsaid or left unshown, depending on if it is like in a visual medium. And I think, like you said at the end of last episode, it could have been something maybe that was left not shown to us, that we go into it speculating on our own time, wondering what happened to them, like Lena would.
Yeah.
That there's no tracking on them anymore. They've gone into an unknown territory, but we've already established that freedom is what they were going toward.
Yeah.
And that idea of getting to choose their own how they die.
Yeah.
Having that autonomy.
If I did have to like just hedge my bet and like say what I think is going to happen, I think we're going to see Shin again. I think he is going to be involved in the story going forward. But,
I'd agree with that.
But god damn it.
He's the only, like, with Lena in particular, he's the, like, I don't think that can be left unsaid, unshown, no more interaction past a certain point.
Do you have anything else before I talk about the
leaf?
Oh, yeah.
I would just like to talk about the leaf really quickly. It gives ideas like, oh, a missing piece. It gives the idea of, like, we are not whole. It gives the idea of, like, this is something beautiful, but it's still not perfect.
It made me more specifically be like, okay, there's 5 of them, and they're all together in one unit, but one of those stems, one of those branches has a hole in it, which symbolized me to Shin's.
That's beautiful. And like, I could also go illusion, because when Karena is spinning it, when we first see the leaf, Karena's spinning it, and you cannot see that there's a hole in it. And this idea that what we're looking at is freedom. We don't really know what to do about this. We're kind of trying to fully look at something that is new to us.
Yeah.
And when we finally get an actual still shot, like, oh, we finally have time to think, that's when we see what is left still to heal, or left still that is maybe broken. And on that idea of you bringing up Shin as that possible part of the leaf that has a hole in it, we get the line from Raiden that he's afraid that Shin has nothing left.
Yeah.
Which I think could be a part of that conversation.
Which is definitely interesting. Like, I don't know. I think that Shin, like, the door to Shin has opened up so wide to me now because of this episode, and seeing what he can be in terms of, like, just freedom and expression. So the Fido montage was the best thing ever. I felt like in a world that we never saw any of these people again, that was the perfect way to encapsulate the weight and severity and the time that has been that we've had in the series, but these characters had with each other. And it's
intimate.
It's almost contradicting in terms of hopelessness and hope, because in taking a picture of everybody together, everybody's last picture, you know, everybody there, and my entire feeling seeing that is, yep, we are never going to survive this. We are never going to get to a part of the map that is unknown. Like, even seeing it after the entire 20 minutes of all 5 of us, the ones who did make it, it was almost like I couldn't believe that would ever happen, even though I did. And we got a shot of, I think Haruto is his name, of his shadow and blood. And I, before last episode, like, after last episode, I was like, holy shit, like, people are dying off screen at this point. And I think that it definitely hit me a bit harder when we got to see that through Fido's memories. I liked seeing how conscious Fido was. And then in what I really want to talk about is that in the episode, close to the end, I'm like, man, there's so much emphasis on Shin's communication with Fido. And, like, was he a person? Was he some... Because we've seen Shin be able to talk to Legion. And then at the end of the episode, I'm like, holy shit. Fido, one way or another, for some fucking reason, was, I think, either Shin's family or Annette's family's dog.
Oh, interesting. So I didn't know that that's where you were gonna go. I'm not surprised that you started thinking about Fido and wanted to talk about him specifically in the way that you just started talking about him in. I have it like starred and like circled in my notebook to talk about the idea of these intelligent robots.
Yeah.
We have in this episode, we come into the zoo and there is a Legion that is an 86. And yes, we have the idea that Shin can communicate and can hear them.
Like, look at this. This is a memory Fido has of Kid Shin with Annette and Ray before the war. How the fuck could this exist?
Dude.
How the fuck could that's what I'm saying. And then I'll try to find it. I think it's in episode 8 or 9 when we get to see in Annette's drawings there's a dog. And it looks like... I don't know how the fuck it could happen, but you don't get this shot unless Fido existed before we get to see them interacting the first time this episode.
When did, like, I think what needs to be talked about is when did the Legion start using the brain in the way that they have? We have the conversation piece from Annette that her father and other scientists were made to do horrible experiments even on, like, 86, on people.
Yeah.
Because of the brain. They probably started on animals. But then they moved to people in order to get the actual, like, communication.
Doesn't this look like a dog?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know who drew it. I don't know if it really looks like a dog. But it's there nonetheless.
But it's like, if your enemy is working on creating intelligent, unmanned, weaponry.
Yeah.
You're also trying to create that same thing. We were unable to do it. That's why we had to make the 86 not human so that we could say, oh yeah, our unmanned, juggernauts are able to defeat and fight the Legion. No people have died. But we definitely would have started experimenting in this world on animals first. I don't think we would have gone straight to people. Obviously, we eventually went to people because Annette basically says it. Like, we did a lot of experiments on people.
Like, I have it pulled up right now because of that shot of the drawing. It shares words. You can't use animals,
We
right?
had to have learned that. We had to have learned that we can't use animals. That's right, human experimentation.
I feel like the second I saw this shot of, like, before the war, I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And then that's the only thing. I definitely don't understand how it would have happened and how it would have been Fido, and if it was, like, what, a coincidence that Shin finds Fido during the war, or if they even knew, but I think that would explain the communication that they have on that level.
And what type of robot is that, and what is its job?
Yeah.
Like, think about what its job is. Its job is to go fetch things.
Yeah. We
killed everyone's dogs.
I'm pretty certain that Fido is dead, though. Like, at the end of this episode. I don't think we're ever going to see him again.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we killed everyone's dogs and made them into these go fetch robots. And that is really effed up.
Man, this entire ending montage was fucking amazing. It was so good.
It was really good.
And then zooming out, it's like like the reflection acts is almost like a tear coming out of Fido's eye.
Just like thinking about it, because the last image we get is like Kid Shin turning into adult Shin, and then like seeing this almost like tear on this robot that we're now talking about being
he just
dog.
blows up like.
Oh, why are you gonna do that to me? That's so messed up.
Man. I love the show. Again, just like at the end of last episode, I have no fucking idea what's next. And I am...
We can get Lena once in this episode. And not that, obviously,
Dude,
not that we needed it, but...
At a certain point, before I went down the fucking Fido rabbit hole, I'm like, holy shit. What if for some reason, or somehow, Lena got, like, a message or something, and it was all these, like, MP4s and JPEGs of, like, pictures and videos that Fido took, and Lena gets to see all of Spearhead, like, before and after they died.
Like,
and
even more sad.
Yeah. That would have been beautiful, too, though.
I know, but, like, she already is hurt enough and sad enough over just voices of them.
What a fucking episode, man.
Really, really good.
I loved the part with Shin and the little screw on the ground. It was so fucking cool, man.
You got it, like, right in the head.
Yeah.
I like the idea that we were walking around this old imperial town and there's still, like, clothing in the shops and all that, but I think mainly the statues.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, every place has their own, like, things they represent or idols or
do you think
figureheads of their society that they try to live by. The saints, like, we have a saint, the Alba have a saint.
Do you think it's foreshadowing for the Alba's like lack of time, like or time and power? Like, do you think this is going to be them in X amount of years?
Part of me feels that the Alba have literally no actual power.
Yeah.
And that they are just in a tiny little prison themselves. And
Definitely.
They have a semblance of power that they keep up as a society for the sake of their sanity and their egos.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that they actually have anything. Like, we even have that idea that we're eating artificial food half the time.
Yeah.
We're having to basically take supplements at the table. Like, we aren't living as
in the
flashy
paradise
as
that,
I feel. In the paradise, the heaven. We have the conversation of, like, heaven and paradise being brought up in this episode.
All right. That's all I have you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time. That was fucking wild.